Hello dear listener, it is time for the VR Shiz show once again. We really need to stop talking. The show went for quite some time, and sound went bad at the end. I will sternly correct Vince, but maybe not. Maybe it's some indie charm. Or not. Maybe it just is bad. Regardless, enjoy the newest VR Shiz show.
It is that time of the week, ladies and gentlemen. It is the time for the VR Shiz show with the one and only Richard and the other one and only Vince.
I'm Vince.
Although technically you're a junior, so technically you aren't the one and only.
Yes, I am the second edition, and also with my full name, I'm probably one of many.
That's true.
I have an aggressively Hispanic name.
Yeah.
So, there's probably a lot of me.
Yeah, no, I went a while ago. It's probably middle school or whatever when I found out, it's like howpopularismyname.com or something like that. You can like type in your first name and your last name just to see how common it is. Mm. Richard, I think, was 8th most popular guy's name.
It sounds about right.
It's not totally up there, but it's up there enough that it's like, yeah, it's pretty common.
I don't think my first name is... Actually, no, technically speaking, I don't think there'd be a lot of me's. Because I'm Hispanic, technically it's supposed to be Vicente.
Yeah.
But my name is Vincente with an N.
Yeah.
So I get made fun of a lot, but at the same time I'm like...
Me and
my brother are the only ones... me and my dad are the only ones like, fight me right now.
I'm special.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Did I tell you what I was almost named instead of Richard?
I think we talked about this, but I don't remember.
My father petitioned for Wolfgang.
That's a cool name, though.
That would have been rad.
That would have been really cool. See, then it would have been the WV Shiz show.
Yeah.
And I think that's just as catchy.
But that's not a thing like VR is, you know?
Yeah, that's fair.
VR already is a expanded topic.
I mean, it could have just been Wolfgang and...
It would have been the VW. That's what it would have been.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. It would have solved it.
We could have done it on Tuesday nights because that's when Arrow used to debut on the CW. Just do it this... I'm sorry.
Stupid.
Okay, so do you want me to start with my joke segment, or do you want me to...
No, that'll be a transitional phase.
In between the media consumed and...
It's like purgatory.
Okay, fair.
It's the in-between.
It's actually pretty similar to Purgatory, what we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
So, do you want to start with yours, or do you want me to start with mine?
Yeah, so we'll do some media consumed. I think I know what mine is. Yeah. I had to think about it for a little bit. Like, I thought about it before the show, and then I totally forgot.
I actually consumed a lot of media, so I was trying to figure out what I was going to talk about.
I was going to talk about the movie we watched on Saturday, but I'm just like, nah. I'd rather talk about the game I've been playing. Because Steam sale happened, and I spent a lot of money on many, many, many games. Because the most expensive game I bought was Halo Master Chief Collection for $25.
I still need to make my Microsoft account so then I can actually play it. So we can play it.
Yeah.
So that'll be fun. A lot of fun.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll do it at the LAN party on Saturday.
I'm hoping.
I'm hoping too, because it's only $1 for a month of whatever Microsoft Xbox Game Pass or whatever.
I have to double check to see.
But that was the most expensive game. Everything else was like, wow, this is $3. This is $5. I can't miss this.
So what have you been playing though?
A little bit of Halo, and I'm gonna dive deeper into that in a bit. But I finally got Ape Out again. I had it on the Switch.
I got to play a little bit of that.
That game is fantastic, and then I'm like, you know what? I don't like the load time, so I'm just gonna buy it on PC so I don't have to do those.
Fair.
And completed it. Turns out the game is really short if you're just doing like, you know what? I just want to complete the level. It's 4 worlds, which are technically 4 albums, because I'll get into it in a sec, but it's 4 albums, and it took me a total of an hour and a half to beat, basically. It is very short.
Wow.
Which is why it was only like I said, $6-7 or whatever for this game. It's not, hours and hours of building story and momentous occasions and action, and even like a roguelite where, you're spending hours and hours learning.
Yeah.
It's just a fun, good old time. It is, you know the guy Bennett Foddy? Who did Getting Over It? The dude in the cauldron with the hammer?
That sounds familiar, but I don't think I've...
You know the game Quap?
Really?
It's that dude.
Really?
He helped on the game.
Okay.
He didn't do most of it, but I know he's credited for helping, I think with art design or something.
Quap, man.
But, so Ape Out, you play as a gorilla.
Uh-huh.
You escape. You are the ape that is out.
Yes, I did play this game.
Mm-hmm.
You did. I actually liked it overall.
It is very visually stylish. Like, it just scales up in what it's doing with the visual flair that it has, and it's an absolutely gorgeous game. Because as much as I love, like, gameplay, visuals, not necessarily visual fidelity, but a visual style that's super interesting will always hook me. Like, Shovel Knight has a very iconic, revamped NES aesthetic and things like that. Like, that's why I like Wind Waker among all of the other Zeldas, because it's such a nice game to look at, and I'm like, ooh,
Yeah.
we're going to keep playing this one.
Yeah, fair.
Things like that. Ape Out has this very interesting aesthetic where it has a film grain over the whole thing, because the game as a whole is very jazz.
Yep.
The entire soundtrack, which I just bought on vinyl today, along with Gravity Falls, because hey, I want free shipping.
That was probably the most hype I've ever seen you in the Discord, which was incredible.
Boy, I saw that soundtrack in my emails saying, hey, this is available to pre-order, and then I'm like, all right, click buy. All right, let's go.
It was just really funny because, like, I just saw the Let's Go.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, this is Richard popping off. What the heck happened? And I was thinking, I'm like, it's one of two things. It's either Gravity Falls related. Actually, one of three things. I thought it was going to be either Gravity Falls related, it was going to be King Giz related, or it was just going to be like, hey, so it turns out Nintendo actually debuted the next character, and it's Doomslayer. So I was like, it's going to be one of these three, so I'm going to check. And then I was like, oh, that's actually really cool. Cool, I'm happy for my dude.
Yeah. I'm not going to pop off even if Doomslayer gets announced. I'll just be like, all right, that's cool.
I'm going to pop off.
You will.
I will.
I won't.
But I already told you what my most aggressive pop-off will be.
Yeah, I know.
It's never going to happen.
It. No.
It'll never happen.
But yeah, and then, I mean, technically already the big Giz news happened, last week with the new albums.
Yeah.
But back to Ape Out. It has an avant-garde drums for the soundtrack. Mm-hmm. And it's all jazz, very, very Whiplash style of drums. Where it's like very perfect, but it's very interesting in how it adds flair, because anytime you kill one of the enemies, it adds a crash on the cymbals or things like that.
I do remember that, yeah.
And so I played that, and it was so excellent. Like, I'm just so glad that the soundtrack was still available to order, because I've missed out on the past, as I have mentioned. But I got it. I got the soundtrack because I wanted to get free shipping, and I figure, look, it's $5 to ship. So I'll instead pay another $25 to not pay that shipping.
Yeah.
But yeah, Ape Out, highly, highly recommend. Really short. I haven't gone back to it just because there is game modes where it's like, oh, try and do it with the least amount of deaths. Try and do it. There's an arcade mode. Try and do it without dying. Or try and do it in the fastest amount of time. Things like that. But it's very, very fun. Published by Devolver Digital, my favorite publisher of all time. So, good stuff.
Okay, let me ask you a question before we move on.
Yeah.
I think we've talked about music in media as a whole, correct?
I don't know, probably. I'm barely a host of this show, Vince.
Okay, because the thing is, I think we have talked about it, but with the way everything's going, because I was going to share two things for media consumed. Also, both with incredibly strong soundtracks. And I was like, what if we just talk about soundtracks in media as a whole and the importance of them?
Yeah, I don't care.
Are you cool with that?
No, Vince, I'm not cool. I'm going to go cry now. Because you've derailed this very structured show. This well thought out and perfectly cohesive piece of media, Vince.
Oh, clearly. We have an arc going. But
I don't even remember what the arc we're doing is.
I just remember that I'm a robot, and
that's right. We did say that.
And the segment after this one, before what we talk about as
yeah,
main
we'll
thing,
do that.
That's
We'll get there.
that's part of it too. But okay, are you done? Or
Yeah, no,
okay.
I literally just played Ape Out and then watched Neverending Story on Saturday and said, wow, that was a movie.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought too. We love you, David.
We know this movie shaped your childhood. Didn't shape mine, I'm sorry.
Yeah, same. Just to be honest, same. Okay, so I'm going to talk about two pieces just really quick. I played and beat Spider-Man-Miles Morales.
You did mention that you just said, you know what, it's here, we're going to play it.
Yes.
And then you did.
I played a lot of it. I thought it was fantastic. It's definitely shorter, and therefore it's actually less expensive than Marvel's Spider-Man.
Yeah.
But the soundtrack is, I feel it's just as good as Into the Spider-Verse.
Mm-hmm.
It has that aesthetic. I think they use the same voice actor for
Really?
Miles Morales. I'm almost 100% sure.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I
I know they did a thing that people are complaining about where they changed regular Spider-Man to...
Yeah, it was a bit jarring.
What's his name?
Yeah, it was a bit jarring because I think Yuri Lowenthal, if I'm not mistaken. But it's a bit jarring because I went back and played the Marvel Spider-Man again right after I beat that one.
Yeah.
I played and then I was just like, oh my gosh, it's really weird. But to be fair, Peter isn't in the game that much because this is not his game.
Yeah.
They had a really cool representation of the Tinkerer. I liked that.
Mm-hmm.
Miles as a character is just, he's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
He's not Peter Parker, and I'm really glad they didn't attempt to turn him into Peter Parker.
Yeah.
You know, he definitely does have the insecurities and is kind of goofy, but he's goofy in a different way than Peter is.
Yeah.
You know,
he has something.
he does. He does.
He has something that no other Spider-Man has.
Yes, truly. The greatest of swaggers. But honestly, he does do like a lot of different types of flips and everything. Like when he's moving, like I don't remember Spider-Man doing that, like Peter Parker Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. He's not even looking while he's like swinging, just super confident in his swinging. The Venom power that you get, it's not like Venom, like the symbiote, but just because he has the bioelectricity.
Oh, the Venom shock?
Oh, bro, it is. I will say it's so much more fun to play as Miles Morales than it is as regular Spider-Man, especially with some of the builds.
Mm-hmm.
The one I got was every 6th hit basically gives you a free Venom hit,
mm-hmm.
which means and you also arc. So you can take out groups really fast, but it feels good. But I played it on one of the harder difficulties where like they'll breathe on you and you'll die.
Yeah.
So it felt good.
Mm-hmm.
It felt good because I'm like, I'm a piece of paper. But also, my enemies will go down just as fast if I'm faster than them.
It's just a glass cannon, man.
Yeah, glass cannon, and it felt great. The soundtrack is phenomenal. Like I said, when you swing through the streets of New York, the music that plays is like a hip hop, more bass, heavy version of what you hear in Marvel Spider-Man, and it feels really good.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, you and I think I've expressed it a few times on this show. I love hip hop music. I haven't gotten super into it lately, but as a culture, I think it's fascinating.
Yeah.
I genuinely enjoy most of the hip hop music. I do like listening to the lyrics of it. There's some songs that really resonate with me, but like feeling the culture of what they wanted to put in that game, and they really focused on Harlem.
Mm-hmm.
And it was cool because it was one of those games that was able to talk about political issues without shoving those political issues down your throat.
Wow, what a miracle.
It was just...
Who knew that could be accomplished?
That's the thing. People don't get that. Like, they put their ideas there, and it was like, this is the world that we built, and we don't have to preach to you, but that's what's going on.
Yeah.
And I was like, that was actually really good. This was really well told.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really... It reminded me almost of Wolfenstein 2. The new Colossus, where they definitely had their ideals, but they're like, yeah, this is what's happening, but Also, you're American, so it doesn't matter. So just mow down the Nazis.
Yeah.
That was practically like, you know, you're Miles Morales, and you're defending your slice of New York, which is Harlem.
Yeah.
From the enemy.
Yeah.
It was fantastic. And then the other thing is, my dad and I watched. I finally convinced him, got him to sit down and watch a new anime with me, and it's called The Great Pretender. And it's basically about con men.
Okay.
So no magic, nothing like that. It's literally just a guy in Japan who gets conned by a... he attempts to con someone, but he ends up getting conned. He finds out that this guy goes around the world and he cons high-class criminals and screws them out of their money, ruins their reputation.
Yeah.
Which is very reminiscent of one of my dad and my dad and I's favorite show, one of our favorite shows, Leverage, where it's a group of criminals who take down like big conglomerates and corporations who have hurt people, destroy their name, and then, you know, they take a little bit of money because they're still thieves.
Yeah.
But they help out the people who have been hurt by these things. So it's almost the same exact premise. It's very stylish. It's very we've talked about Doom Eternal.
Yeah.
Where it has that bright neon like pop.
Yeah.
It's like that, but it's also the actual drawing style is more of like, it's almost like a 1960s comic book.
Okay.
But you can still tell it's like very Japanese.
Yeah.
So it's that, and it has like the bright colors because the first part is set in LA. So, you know, you have that, and then the music. It's so good.
Yeah.
I think you would like the music.
What is it?
It's very, you can tell that it's very, what's the word? I'm trying to think.
I don't know, Vince. I don't know.
It kind of reminds me actually of Ape Out. Obviously not.
So it's jazz.
It's
I mean,
jazz.
that's what I was thinking. Like,
it's jazz,
jazz tends to go well with criminals.
Yeah. That's pretty much what it is. Obviously, it's not to that degree.
Speakeasies and the like, you know, have always historically been where jazz was played, so it tends to stay that way with criminals, and it's... I mean,
if it works, it works.
Cowboy
right?
Bebop, you know.
Yeah, if it works, it works, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like that. It did give me Cowboy Bebop vibes. The intro song is fantastic, and it's actually created by a band named The Great Pretenders, and the name of the anime is called The Great Pretender. So I'm like, oh wow, very, 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 really good naming skills there. But I mean, if it's not broke, you know, no need to fix it.
Yeah.
Music is fantastic.
Do they play Pretender by Foo Fighters too?
Maybe when they go to a different city. That'd be hilarious. I would genuinely.
The Great Pretenders play Pretender in The Great Pretender?
Yeah, it's a cover band. You know, so I will say it was fantastic. My dad genuinely laughed. I laughed a few times. Like, I was like, oh, this is pretty good. It's slick. It's stylish. We've only watched 2 episodes. I'm hoping that my dad's not going to pull what he always does and ends up watching it without me, because I will be sad. I'm hoping he will wait for me, but luckily he probably doesn't even remember the name of the anime, which is the best part.
Good.
Yeah, that means he'll ask me, hey, what's that one thing that we were watching? And then, you know, we'll get to sit down. But fantastic so far. I've only seen 2 episodes, but we were really, like, we were both exhausted last night, and I looked at him, he looked at me, and I'm like, oh, man, we really want to watch another episode, but I have work tomorrow. He's like, I have work tomorrow, too. He's like, we need to cut out now because I already know that you and I are going to end up staying up the whole night watching this. I'm like, yeah, okay. Well, we had to have that debate with ourselves. Like, that's how intrigued we were.
Yeah.
It was fantastic. And in other music-related news...
No, before we transition, I wanted to go back to Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Did you see that Phil Lord and Chris Miller, they said that for the new Spiderverse sequel, that they want to bring in one of the glitches from Miles Morales?
Is it the one with the truck?
Huh?
Is it the one with the truck?
No, it's the one with the light post.
I don't think I've seen that one.
So I'm pretty sure, if I read the article correctly, it's the glitch where Miles is a swinging light post. And they want to somehow bring that in. And they're like, I think their words were, we wouldn't be doing our due diligence if we didn't. So keep watch for that Easter egg, I guess, in the newest Spider-Verse.
interesting.
Yeah. But now we'll go into our transient hellscape.
In the life of he who shall not be named, the only clue we will give is he is the lead singer of a very famous nu metal band. I think that's what they are, right?
Yes, they are nu metal.
I couldn't even say that. Seriously. Of he who shall not be named, because last time we invoked his name, I think both of us just kept losing brain cells.
Yeah.
We were having continuous strokes last week.
That's why I named the episode what it was.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I laughed for like a good 5 minutes. Fantastic naming. But here's a fun fact about this person.
Yeah, so this is just going to be the life and times of
this
the
person.
One and only.
Yes, the one and only. Ladies and gentlemen, introducing the chocolate starfish and hot dog flavored water. That's the first thing he says on that album, by the way.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
So, in 2007, he made his directorial debut with the movie The Education of Charlie Banks, which starred both Jesse Eisenberg and Jason Ritter. And it's about a guy who basically sees this dude beat these two guys almost to the near point of death.
Mm-hmm.
And so he rats on him.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that guy ends up going to jail. And then a few years later, he ends up seeing that guy again in college. And he's like a completely different person, and he wants to be his friend. But the main character, Charlie, is like afraid of being this guy's friend because he can't tell if he's like completely over it or if he's harboring some sort of secret grudge, and that's why he wants to get close to him.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the premise of that film. That is
what is the IMDb score?
I don't know the IMDb, but I do know on Rotten Tomatoes it was a 48.
All right, I'm gonna pull up IMDb because that's where the most prestigious internet reviews
clearly
rely.
I think that's probably the most solid. I will say that the movie was made for $5 million, and it made $15,078.
Nice.
Yes,
it's not as big a flop as Cats was this year or last year or whatever that was.
I feel like Cats is just a representation of 2020 in general.
Yeah. What was the movie again?
It is called The Education of Charlie Banks.
All right, we're gonna...
It did win an award.
What award did it win?
It was in, what's that stupid thing? The Tribeca Film Festival.
All right.
But we know how those are.
On IMDb it has a 6.6.
Out of what, 10?
Yeah.
So it's a decent movie.
Okay, that's better than Rotten Tomatoes, which means that the esteemed cinematic audience on IMDb felt it was worthy of that. And in keeping with how garbage IMDb is, I want to see if there's any trivia. Because have you read IMDb trivia
Some of
ever?
the trivia is fantastic.
It's so stupid 80%
funny.
of the time. It's like, who thought, this is good trivia? It's like, wow, this person was almost cast as this, but they weren't.
I've read a few. Some of those are interesting, like the reasons for it.
Let's see. There is
probably no trivia.
No trivia, but there is a Did You Know section that has quotes, goofs, and it has the soundtrack. So that's about all you get. This movie, unfortunately, doesn't have any IMDb trivia, and that makes me sad.
It only made $15,000, Richard. I think there's a reason for that.
We need Fred to bring the trivia.
I was like, what are you doing? Don't invoke the name.
We need him to personally put the trivia about the film on IMDb.
I want to get this podcast to the point where the lead singer of the phenomenally famous band for some reason in 2000, like early 2000, to hear this podcast and hear that we've been doing this once a week for a while.
Yeah.
And then he just becomes a guest star on the show. Because I think that would be the biggest meme. I think it would be fantastic. I don't know what I would do.
We can't have that.
Because we can't invoke his name.
The power of his name is too much. Having his presence here. Are you kidding?
If he doesn't flip, like if he ends up on here and he doesn't flip us off, I'm gonna be really disappointed. Like if he doesn't feud with us, because he's feuded. Well, I'll do one on his feuds next week.
All right,
that would be fantastic.
We'll continue the life and times of the mystery man
of he who shall not be named.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I had recommended earlier was talking about the importance of soundtracks in media.
Yes.
As a whole. Because I felt like we were both talking about music-related things, even though we were talking about games.
I mean, technically, with your topic of today, it also connects to the original topic.
Yes, because it still has to do with movies.
I don't know. We'll push it. We'll push.
How about we
topic.
can talk about the choices that certain directors make for those ones?
Nah, screw it. We'll just do whatever.
I have one.
We'll just push the director off to...
Okay, I was going to say, I have one. We
one.
can talk about Baby Driver.
I mean, Edgar Wright is incredible.
That's why. I was thinking about like directors that use everything that they do, including the music that they put in there.
We'll save it.
We'll save that one.
Yeah.
We can save that one.
Because I have... Again, I'm already having a stroke, and I only said his first name, man.
I told you! God, it became canon. It became lore, and I don't think... I did it as a joke, and I think we have too much power.
What do you mean we have too much power?
He has too much power.
The original topic that is going to be for next week is our favorite directors, but we'll just save that. But yeah, it's for soundtracks. They are vitally important for all forms of media.
Yes.
Because guess what? Humans got eyes and ears.
Yes, I think personally, movies can live or die based on a very good soundtrack and just overall sound design. Mm-hmm. Because, say you take a movie like... We watched both... The two movies that you introduced me to that I actually genuinely enjoyed, Into the Spiderverse and Baby Driver. Mm-hmm. If we change those...
if we change anything about the soundtrack and the score...
It wouldn't be nearly as good.
Be nearly as effective. And that's something I see more so in video games.
Yeah.
For sure, because... I mean, the thing is, video game music is so well written because of how it's designed.
Yeah.
It's designed to keep you pressured to move forward. Mm-hmm. Which movie soundtracks are there purely for the scene that they are in.
For the set pieces themselves.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's why I find video game soundtracks and the score writers for that to be so much more interesting.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, for Red Dead, the original Red Dead Redemption.
That actually introduced me... That introduced me to... what is his name? Jose... The guy who writes the one song... At the end, when you're riding the horse back to your farm before the ending happens.
We'll do some hard.
You know which one I'm talking about, right?
Yeah. Let's see if his stupid thing pops up on Spotify real quick. All right, we have. If I can spell it.
Oh gosh, it is affecting you, my dude.
Jose Gonzalez.
There it is.
Jose Gonzalez. That is literally just the most.
What?
That is just the most plainly Hispanic name.
Yeah, it's more Hispanic than my name.
It is. I mean, that's a name that, like, if I'm just trying to come up with some random Mexican dude, that's like the name that, like, my brain defaults to.
I was writing something personally, and I had to come up with a name for like a Hispanic dude, and I named him Juan Ramirez. So it's up there. I mean, there was a J in there, so and then Ez.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
But yeah, so Far Away, I listened to that, and I really loved Jose's music.
But the thing about what they did for Red Dead Redemption is they had layers upon layers of stems, and depending on what you were doing, they would alternate what stems were being used. So, you know, it would fade into more intense things for a combat type of environment. And even while you're just riding around, it would still alternate the stems based on the environment you're in and things like that are just so different for video game music.
Yeah.
One of my favorite video game composers, I mean, one of the most well-known, if not the most well-known composer for video games, Mick Gordon.
Okay, yeah.
His GDC conference on how he goes about even just making music and like the process of making Doom 2016 soundtrack and how it went about and everything is so fascinating. Because he talks about the process of what he was told not to do, what he was told to do, how he layered things in, all of the hidden messages he even put in the music, which is hilarious. but all of it to create something that suits Doom so well.
Yes.
Because Doom has always been known for its music. Like, even the first one was known, like the iconic E1M1 theme.
It's three things. Doom Guy, the demons, and the music.
Yeah. I mean, have you seen Xbox Ahoy, his video on Doom?
No, but I will have to watch it.
Oh, Xbox Ahoy is a fantastic channel. I will maybe remember to link it in the description. But his channel, or it used to be Xbox Ahoy, now it's just Ahoy.
Yeah.
Guillermo introduced me to him.
Okay.
And he does really good just video game documentaries that are can be anything from just a specific weapon and its uses in video games, which is what his channel mostly is, because that's easier to do a 20-minute little thing on, hey, this is the M1.
Yeah.
Versus the history of video games during the Cold War that he's done. But his one on Doom, he mentions, the soundtrack and how it was literally just they were ripping off all of the metal they heard in the office and then threw it into a video game. And that soundtrack pulses in such a way that it just drives you forward. You are just egged on, which is why a lot of people recommend video game music for doing like work and stuff and homework.
Yeah.
Because that's what video game music is there to do. It's not there to distract you from the game. It's there to push you forward.
Yes.
And so that's why it's so fantastic for doing work.
That's why I listen to the Persona 5 soundtrack.
I was about to say, this is your...
That's up my alley. I listen to that music and I just go.
Yep. But it's such a different animal. And then going back to film music, like you said, with Spiderverse, it's so important to have that good sound design to match it as well.
Yeah.
Because I think of The Shining is so well designed sound-wise because it's so unsettling. And the music there is very simple.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be complicated.
No. It's there to do exactly what it needs
and it does it well. I'll pull out two here. So someone that reminds me of Mick Gordon, but on the cinematic side of things. I think I've already talked about him maybe once, but I think it was in passing. If you don't know who he is, I recommend you watching him because for some reason he reminds me very much of Mick. Bear McCreary. Bear McCreary is freaking fantastic.
What has he done?
He has done, I think, both Godzilla movies. He's done a lot. I can pull up his credentials right now. He's done the most recent Child's Play.
Okay.
So the thing is, with Bear, what he does is he plays to the strengths of the movies or the overall tone of them.
Yeah.
And I'll use those two examples that I just mentioned because those are the most recent ones I think I watched with his music in it. So Child's Play, it's about a killer AI, the reboot. It's not a fantastic movie. I enjoyed it. I liked it. I mean,
how many of the Child's Play movies are fantastic films?
None of them. But they're fun to watch.
That's what I was about to say. Like, I know some of them are fun, but none of them you would call high class.
I'm sad that Tom Savini, they kind of cut him out for this one. And they basically rebooted the series.
Okay.
In a way that he's now an AI instead of a serial killer, instead of a, doll kind of thing. But Bear, what he did was, it's about a toy. It's about a toy during the digital age who can basically hack into like anything. That's the whole premise of it. And also Mark Hamill voices Chucky.
Dude, I freaking love Mark Hamill's voice acting.
Yeah, he's fantastic. He's so underrated. I love that man.
He's such a talented voice actor, and everyone's just like, he's Luke Skywalker, and I'm like...
But also the Joker.
And also the Joker, and I'm like, but even more than that, because he was fantastic in regular show as Skips.
I think it's funny how... I feel like he just does things at this point because he wants to, not because he needs to.
Oh, yeah.
100%. That's 100% what it feels like. Like, hey, give me something. Cool, I'll do it. Like, that's what it feels like.
Yeah.
Like, he's fantastic. But, so, for the overall theme song of the Child's Play movie, the reboot, Bear uses automatons You know what those are, right?
Yes. Have you seen the YouTube channel?
Yeah.
That does covers and all the
Yeah.
Anyway, look up that video. That's a great channel.
It's pretty great. He uses those to kind of, but he plays with like a lot of other instruments in the background. So it's like it's supposed to have this playful feeling, but at the same time, it's done in a way where it's still very unsettling.
Got that ominous layers to it.
Exactly. Like his music is fantastic. I 100% do that. And then on top of that, the other movie that he did, Godzilla King of the Monsters. Now, you know that I'm a very big Godzilla fan.
Yeah.
One of the strongest things about Godzilla, I would personally say, besides the super campy monsters of the Heisei and Showa era, is the music. If you've ever just listened to the set pieces that they use...
I mean, I would also go so far as to say the sound design.
Yes.
Because Godzilla's roar
it's one of the most iconic
is one of the greatest sounds ever conceived in cinema.
You know how it was created, right?
Yes, but it's been a while.
So what they did was they grabbed I think a cello bass.
Okay.
They coated the strings in resin. They put on a glove and they just went straight down. And then they lowered the pitch and reversed it.
Interesting.
That's how they created his roar. So that's why you hear the... You know, the...
Okay, that makes sense.
It's weird to think about, right?
Okay, I definitely hadn't heard of that one. I know the T-Rex roar from Jurassic Park.
That's another fantastic...
That one's also... But that one's definitely more just sound design of layering things.
Yeah.
Because the T-Rex, I think it was an alligator growl, an elephant, a couple of other things, and then just modulating it all.
Yeah.
To work together.
So, for that film, he took a lot... Because, you know, there's a lot of classic monsters in that movie. There's the other three classic kaijus in that movie. For each one of their personal songs, they all have their own personal songs. You have Monster Zero for King Ghidorah. You have, I think it's Queen of the Monsters, if I'm not mistaken, for what's her name?
Mothra?
For Mothra. Yeah, it's a girl.
I'm like the only female monster that anyone knows is female.
Yeah. And then one for Rodan. But if the one that I specifically love is when it shows Mothra for the first time, when you break down all of the sound again, because I love Godzilla, with Mothra's original creation, they were like twin fairies who basically prophesied the coming of Mothra.
Yeah.
And you would hear like it's kind of like Tinkerbell's magic thing.
Yeah.
You know, you hear the things, you hear some of the sprinkling in that, but you also hear layers of the original song mixed in with the cries of the current Mothra and some of the updated stuff that they were able to bring in. So they meshed it and layered it all together. And it creates this very, like, awe-inspiring tone. Like, you are looking at something legitimately beautiful. And, you know, Mothra's a big bug. There's not much to say about that. But still, when I watched that in theaters, we were in the same theaters, and I don't think we weren't close friends at that point, which I think is hilarious.
No, we had met each other and talked.
Yeah.
And then I mentioned, hey, because you brought up Godzilla or something, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to go see King of the Monsters this day at this theater. And you're like, oh, hey, I'll be there. I'm like, all right, cool, see you there. And then we forgot entirely.
And we ended up seeing each other. I'm like, oh!
I'm like, oh yeah, we did say we were going to see each other.
But I watched it with my dad. I was so hyped, dude. But it's one of those things, like, again, just Big Bug, but the way that the music was playing when she is revealed, it's one of those things that I remembered watching as a kid, and it gave me chills, like I was watching it as a kid again. Godzilla, his roar, his updated roar, I don't think it's as good as his original, but it's still
close.
Fantastic.
It's close.
It's fantastic. It feels... You know, it's one of those things that, again, sound design is so important for things like this.
Yes.
And then the other thing, I've already touted this series to hell and back, and I will continue to do it until the day I die. Danganronpa. So, okay, the thing is, you need to look up the composer of that series because he's fantastic. I think he's working on the new game series that the creator of Zero Time Escape and the creator of Danganronpa are doing now.
Okay.
They took both of their concepts and they're like, children killing each other and time stuff. What if we put those together? That is literally the premise of their first game. And then I think they brought him along. But when you listen to the music in that series, it is very unsettling. It's very unnerving. And the reason being is because kids are killing each other.
Yeah.
You know, you have to do investigative times. You have to figure out who murdered what. Each one of the musical set pieces for those things, you know, obviously they're on a loop, but it's one of those things where it's like, man, I feel like I have to hurry up.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this is making me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
There is a specific piece that I love, especially. It was actually my my ringtone for like 3 years. From Danganronpa V3 Killing Harmony, and it was called the Mass Panic Debate.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll explain to you what is going on during this time. So one person in the courtroom, because that's what happens, someone dies, you guys look for evidence and try to figure out who killed the person, who killed the victim. In the third game, they added this thing where it's like one person presents one set of ideals for what had happened, and there's another person who presents a different set of ideals for what happened. And people take sides on both, and they essentially try to battle it out. So one side presents something, and they're like, hey, this is what I believe, and this is why I believe it, and you have to prove them wrong. But because it's the entire group of students going against each other, it does something called a mass panic debate, where it's split down the middle, and now you have to figure out what side is right.
Mm-hmm.
But because you guys are shooting opinions and facts back and forth, the music essentially turns into a dubstep drop. It builds up, because what happens is Monokuma gets happy because, yay, now they're all fighting each other. Let's see what happens now, because he is a piece of garbage, but I love him.
Mm-hmm.
The room splits apart. And as the room splits apart, the students that agree with each other are sitting next to each other to battle each other. So it's like one side is this, one side is this, but as you start to realize what the divide is and as they're splitting, that's where the music is building up. Okay. And then they all get into place, and as they're presenting their arguments, that's when the beat drops. So it goes back and forth. There's one, I think, in the second one where it's you have to try and find the lie in the midst of a bunch of people arguing.
Okay.
So the music just sounds really uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like you're in, like, say you and I were, because we're both introverts, say you and I are sitting in a crowd where everyone is arguing with each other. How would you feel? They're just arguing very loudly.
That wouldn't be fun.
No, that's exactly the feeling it conveys.
Yeah.
You just hear all this arguing, and you hear the music, and it sounds gross, like almost like nails on a chalkboard.
Mm-hmm.
But it complements the way everyone's arguing with each other, and it just feels like white noise almost, which I think is what the game was going for.
Yeah.
Again, it's one of those things that, like, granted, the series gets a bad rap because of how super duper garbage the fandom is.
Well, yeah, but that's everybody who likes a thing sucks.
It makes me sad because the series is fantastic, and I would recommend it
Everybody
to people.
who likes anything sucks, man.
That's fair.
Just how it is.
That's fair. But it's one of those things that, like, I think that as crazy, I'm not going to say as good, as crazy as the story of Danganronpa as a whole is, I don't think it would be nearly as good without its music. There are some things that are genuinely, like, the beginning song for all three, which is basically the same thing, just slightly changed up for each one, is super catchy. Mm-hmm. It's really funky, has this aesthetic that only Danganronpa can match. Mm-hmm. But it wouldn't be that if it didn't have all of that.
Yeah.
It would be kind of lame if they went with, like, stock Japanese music.
Yeah.
You know.
All of this kind of reminds me of someone who is probably one of the best people at uniting the visuals to the score, and that's because he does both, and that's John Carpenter.
He's dead, right?
No.
Are you sure he's not dead?
I am almost 100% sure John Carpenter is still alive. If he is, I'll be amazed that he's dead.
Give me a second, because I always can... Okay, so I'm going to be honest, because John Carpenter is a horror director, correct?
Yeah, Halloween, The Thing.
The thing is, I always confuse him for someone else.
Who?
I don't remember. Don't. What movie am I thinking?
I have no idea.
Scream. Who's the guy who did Scream?
I don't remember.
That's who I confuse him for.
Who is the guy that did Scream? Let's, again, do more hard-hitting research.
That's we're both looking, because that will bother
Wes
me later.
Craven?
Wes Craven. I don't know why I always get them confused.
How do you mix up
I don't know. Look, Wes Craven was fantastic, though.
Yes, but John Carpenter is on another level.
Yes.
Because his scores are so great in everything he does. And because he's doing the music as well as directing, he knows exactly how to utilize it perfectly. Like, I'm sure you've seen Halloween, like the original.
Yeah. I've watched, I think, all of the Halloweens. I'm a very big...
The Halloween soundtrack is so good. It's one of the greatest scores in all of cinema, and it's simple, but it's so tied to... what's his name? Villain Man.
Michael Myers?
Yeah, that one. You know, Villain Man.
Villain Man. His original name, I think, was The Shadow.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Yes, I think that is one of the movies that greatly benefited from its soundtrack.
Mm-hmm.
I think, personally, it's probably the greatest score in horror history. And one of the most solid in regular film.
Yeah. Have you seen, oh gosh, what's the other John Carpenter movie where they're, like, basically aliens on Earth or whatever? They Live? Is that it?
Wait, is that the one with, Rowdy?
Yeah.
Oh my god, that movie was fantastic, bro.
Dude, I watched that for the first time a little while ago. Dude, that movie, it's not cinematic perfection, but it's really good movie, and it has some interesting ideas.
Yeah.
It's also Rowdy Piper. He's a fantastic actor.
Oh my god, yeah. No, because he buys into it. That's the best part.
Also, you know what I found out? The black dude in that movie, he voices the witch doctor in the Princess and the Frog that Disney did.
Dr. Facilier?
Yeah.
Really?
That's the same guy.
What's? Oh my gosh, we're hitting levels that we shouldn't be hitting.
But anyway, the film soundtrack for They Live is another one that's really great, and it's a totally different style than like Halloween is, because it's this kind of more funky but still slow and droning.
Yeah.
So that it's still a little ominous, but it's definitely more for a bustling America as what is in the movie. Jan Carpenter. You know, Jan Carpenter.
There's another Halloween coming out, by the way.
There is?
Yeah.
Of course there is.
It's called Halloween Kills. Fun fact, because of the Rob Zombie films and then the last reboot.
Oh gosh, Rob Zombie.
There's at least 3 different continuities.
I've heard that the timeline is just the most convoluted garbage, and I'm just like, I'm glad I've only seen the first one.
Yeah, no, it is fantastic. It is definitely a movie that, although I think it is very iconic in its own right.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Myers is a very iconic horror villain. Some of his kills are fantastic.
Yeah.
The writing is good for a horror movie. I don't think that says much, because horror movies in and of themselves aren't incredible, but also without its soundtrack, I do not think
Halloween, if it didn't have John Carpenter behind the music,
no, it wouldn't be up there with like When a Stranger Calls or Black Christmas, Nightmare on Elm Street, like these other movies that
Halloween is such an iconic because of its soundtrack almost.
Yes, actually.
Like I said, because Mike Myers is so tied to the music, it's something unlike any other character. Like other characters, sure, they do motifs, like a musical sting here and there for this character, that character in any film. But Michael Myers is on another level with, like, you hear that and you know. It reminds me of music from Jurassic Park. Yeah.
Where they're always going to play that opening theme for, like, practically every single one of the movies.
Oh, yeah.
And it's the same thing with Michael Myers. You cannot have Michael Myers without that dun, 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 dun. Like, you can't have that.
Yeah.
You cannot.
But even more than, like, Jurassic Park or even Star Wars or anything, none of those are tied to a character like it is with Michael Myers. Like, John Williams scores are some of the greatest, but they're very broad and sweeping.
Yeah.
They're not for a character. They're for an area, for a scene, for things like that. There's like kind of Vader, but that's the Imperial March because it's the Empire, not so much just Vader. But with John Carpenter, again, Halloween, it's all about that one single figure.
Yeah.
But
I will. What's the time right now?
we're almost 50 minutes in, so I can guarantee. Yeah.
Good golly.
What did you think? I said 15.
No.
Media consumed goes to 15 minutes at least.
No, then I added that new segment, but I think we had a good discussion on that.
Oh yeah.
I will mention one last thing if you're okay with that.
How dare you?
Because we were talking about horror.
Yeah.
Unless we save it for, I know you're not big on horror, but I think talking about the importance of music within horror movies would be good because we talked about that. I think I can save it for that actually.
Yeah, we'll save it. We can do that later at some point. But
all right, everybody, thank you so much for joining in on us with this one. I think this is probably the most fun I've had with one of these. There's a lot of back and forth, which I think.
This show is whatever, dude. We did talk, man.
Look, man, but we talk about subjects. I was going to say good subjects, but I'm like subjects.
Yeah, I mean, did you forget the new segment you added? I wouldn't call that.
I'm going to see how long I can keep that up. And when I run out...
just write a letter, hey.
Yeah. I'll do what is it, Stan by Eminem?
Yeah.
With his name instead.
I like that your mind went to the exact same spot that mine did, because I was about to say, you should do the Eminem song.
Yeah, the one Eminem song, and I already knew which one you were talking about.
Anyway.
All right,
thank you for listening. As always, it is a pleasure. I'm not sure if it is for you, but it is for me and Vince.
It's definitely torture for you, but we enjoy it.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to the VR Shiz show. We will catch you next time.
I'll be back next week. Probably not at all professional yet again.